Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm Rusty Fender. David E. Cosmo is off this week. He'll be back next week, hopefully. We're here this week, of course, with a contingent of the folks that come every year that ask about the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Scranton. One of the top 5 in the country, Jamie Hailstone, of course, the parade director, joined us for the 56th anniversary year. And good to see you, Jamie.
Good to see you, and thanks for having me back.
You're welcome.
One of the highlights of my parade season, seeing you guys.
I have to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, if your ears were burning, it was myself and your sister, Magistrate Alice Hailstone, talking about your bow tie collection. So remember, in the words of Richard Nixon, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yes,
so
I
you were
agree.
thought of a couple of weeks ago when I ran into Alice. So tell us about the 56th annual. I guess this is going to catch on, Jamie. Huh?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of these years we're going to get it right, and we're going to have a good parade. Once again, we're going to be leading off the parade with the military band. This has been our tradition for many, many years now, and we'll have back the Northeast Navy Band, who's been one of those bands that has come to us, you know, and you get successful, people start looking to you instead of going out and looking for them. And we've been very fortunate with these military bands because they rotate. And we've had all 5 of the different militaries, and you know, this year it'll be Navy. Next year, depending on who can come, it'll be Army, it'll be Navy, Coast Guard, and we're thrilled to have them. What people might not know, because they see them in the parade and they look so great, and it's a great way to lead off the parade, these guys are also in the community. When they have the time, they will play at Gino Merli. And it's one of those things, it's not open to the public, it's just for the vets living at Gino Merli. These bands, if they're able to come in the night before, we've had them give free concerts at Lackawanna College, at the Penn Security Theater at Lackawanna College. We've done that a few times. So it's just an example of what we as the parade, we think about it just that one day, but we're also out into the community trying to do the different things for the community. And I tell you, we've had great success with when the bands have been able to swing it that Friday night before. It's been a great concert, and we get great amount of people come out.
It's a good thing a lot of folks don't know, and I had asked, this is probably 30, 35 years ago, was if St. Patrick's Day falls on a Saturday, why don't they have it on a Saturday?
Right.
But there is a reason for that, and a very good reason. This goes back almost to the start of the parade. It's always the week before, and there's a very good reason for that.
Well, one of the major reasons is we get some of the best pipe bands you're going to see in the Eastern Seaboard, and they go to the bigger parades, and that's New York, and that would be New York even on the Saturday. That decision was made years ago. It's benefited us. This year we have 11 pipe bands in. One of them that we wouldn't have, which is a great band, is the New York Sanitation, the Emerald Isle. They're excellent. It's just one of the better pipe bands you're ever going to see. We wouldn't have them. They'd be in their own parade. They'd be marching with their own. Speaking of pipe bands, we're having Syracuse back. They had a little hiatus, and that's what happens. Schedules get changed and people, but it's another one of those bands that loves to march in Scranton, loves the opportunity, and they come all the way from Syracuse to march in our parade, and it's a great band.
It's a good thing, kind of going on a limb here. It's probably the kiss of death, but the weather has been getting progressively better now. We've been out of the every morning being +6, +8, +9. The first 8 days of February, 6 of them had snow. That is a record that we try not to beat every year, but that is a record that has not been since they've been keeping records since before the Civil War. So now it looks like we're into a little more moderate time. And again, you don't want it 80 degrees and you don't want it 5 above.
Correct.
You do want it seasonal for early and mid-March, and it looks like right now, and again, hopefully, that this will hold true, Jamie.
That's the hope. Now, I always say, the old Irish saying, you carry the weather with you. So if you come and your heart's lit up with sun, then we'll have sun. But it is nice to have some good weather, and that's part of the preparation for it. You know, people ask, is it for families and things like that? Well, you come down on parade day, that's all that's lined up alongside. And people who come every year have gotten used to it, and they know, bring the extra jacket, bring a blanket, you know, you bring those folding chairs, wrap the kids up. As the sun comes out, unwrap them, and people have figured it out pretty well.
It's a long parade, 11 in the morning, scheduled until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's basically, our whole schedule for the day is we begin the day with 10 o'clock Mass at St. Peter's Cathedral.
Always.
That's our tradition. That's part of the Irish immigrant tradition. So we're very careful about that, and that's very important to us. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute.
Yes.
But to give you, and then 11 o'clock is the Brian P. Kelly foot race, the 2-mile race, which is a lot of fun. And if you are someone who runs 5Ks and that kind of thing, run this one, because you've never seen a crowd like this. Usually you run those 5K, there's no one alongside so for 2 miles you get cheering people the entire length of it.
This has become popular. This is only like 3 or 4 years that this has been going on, too.
Correct.
And
Yep.
so this is another staple that I'm sure will remain with the parade.
It'll definitely remain for a long time. And I know people kind of wait to see the weather again, but there's already about 50 people signed up for it, and that's great for a smaller race like that.
You bet.
And then, of course, we kick off at 11:45. That's when I give the go-ahead and the military band starts, and that's when our parade starts.
I used to say staging area down around the old Lackawanna cold storage. We can't say that anymore because now that's a parking lot, very historic building which burned to the ground
Right.
a while back, but that's still a staging area. And again, the parade route will follow primarily what has been followed for the past 50
Same
years.
exact route we've always had, down along Wyoming, up through Lackawanna Avenue, around back down Spruce Street, and then back out North Washington. I suggest to people one of the nice spots along the route is by the federal courthouse and the Lackawanna County Courthouse. There'll be some seating, there'll be some...
and that's the media area, so that's the prime spot for the stopping as well, to get a good look and a good listen to the bands at that point, too.
Yep. There's no bad spot along the route, but if you do have some kids, that might be a good spot. There'll be some food trucks there. There'll be the people selling those horns that everyone seems to have to get and blow all day long.
Sounds like a Yankees game.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is the route, and again, hopefully by 3:30, 4 o'clock, you'll be down to the last go-round.
Correct.
And again, the businesses, the bars, the restaurants open early again that day. And parking will be, again, very limited in town, so you have to get there early and park anywhere else.
The police, and I can't say enough about how the Scranton police are such a big help to us.
They have this choreographed.
They start closing down about 9:30. However, they do allow people to come in and get into the parking garages. So if you're running a little late, I always suggest 9:30 is a good time. They'll direct you in. You can't just come into town, but they'll direct you to the parking garages, and all the municipal lots are open and will be available.
I see some of the big entertainment old friends, the Celtic band.
Yep.
Legendary in themselves.
Yep.
So again, a year in any type of band or communications industry, a year is a lifetime.
Yeah.
They've been around for quite some time, and they're the perfect act to have for something like this, Jamie.
Yeah, and that's, it's, we have our traditions. We're always looking for something a little different and maybe something new, but there's something to say for us, like stalwarts like that.
Exactly. The work has been going on since the last year's St. Patrick's Parade. So again, we have a little twist this year with the Diocese of Scranton. I just found out about this at Mass, when I was at Mass, actually this weekend, so this is a good tie-in, Jamie.
It is the 150th anniversary of the Diocese of Scranton, and we have a tradition at the parade that the divisions, we have 10 divisions, are named after something historic about either Ireland or the immigrant experience or the Scranton Irish. To us, of course, the diocese and the Catholic faith is very important for the people in the parade committee. So this year we're naming the divisions after former bishops and auxiliary bishops who were Irish. And so I think that's a nice way of us sort of pointing out that these people were important for us growing up and to this day. Either it was from the pulpit or in a classroom, or just, I think more importantly, watching some of these people live their lives and having good lives and being an example to us. And so we're trying to just show some appreciation for the diocese and through that.
I think with Irish bishops in Scranton, you're not going to have enough divisions. I don't think this may go past 4 o'clock.
Yeah, well, we might have to double up. We'll figure it out.
So the parade route, of course, is normal. How are the masses? Do the masses really pack in the mass before the parade?
Yes, and there's representatives of several different Irish groups. You have the Ancient Order Hibernians, you have the Irish Cultural Society, but a lot of people who have no connection to either the parade or some of these come to this Mass. It's always a beautiful Mass. It's always a nice way to start the day and start your day. And I think maybe this year, because it's the 150th, I understand the diocese is having their anniversary Mass on the 4th of March, this coming weekend. But at the same time, I think it kind of carries over.
I'm just a wee bit Irish, but everybody is Irish on Parade Day.
Yep.
And this is such, and this is such a parade and such an Irish area. I mean, I was lucky enough to be invited for the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick back in 1993 to be their speaker back in 93. And, you go from the Sons of St. Patrick to the parade to everything else. And this has a tradition that just steeped in Celtic heritage in this area. Very, very lucky.
Yeah, that's extremely important, as you can see. But at the same time, for us, it's all about the immigrant experience, and whether you're Slovak or Polish or Italian, we've all come around the same time and built this community, and so we try and celebrate it. And the new immigrants, the new immigrants that are coming to our community and working in our community, that's important to us too, to see them as a part of our community. And so we're always very conscious of the Celtic, the Irish, but at the same time, the American is almost even more important.
Yeah, absolutely. The product of all the amalgamation of all these folks over. Tell us about some of the bands and some of the entertainment in the. Of course, the bands now probably contact you right after the parade for this year, for next year, and of course you rotate those around, so everything is certainly done with fairness.
Right, and we have the professional bands. We have 11 pipe bands coming. Which, if you look at some other parades, it's unprecedented. And
it is.
When you have to turn pipe bands away, it's pretty fascinating. The Skyliners, who I think has been one of those things now, I think this may be their 7th year, a fabulous group. They call themselves a retired high school band. It's their band people who never gave it up, and they're fabulous, and they come with a huge group contingent, and the music looks great and sounds great. We have 8 high school bands from the area, and that's one of the more important things to me, to have all the local high school groups. They love it. The kids love it.
That draws the crowd.
And that draws the
the
crowd.
moms and dads
and everybody
and brothers
comes out
and sisters.
to see them.
Better believe it.
Right. And it's exactly the kind of crowd we want, and that's who's coming out.
Sponsors of the parade this year?
Well, once again, Mount Airy Lodge is the parade sponsor. Toyota of Scranton is going to be our military band sponsor.
Well, that's good to divide that up in terms of different areas of division.
And what people maybe don't understand, we have to pay for the military band to come. We pay the pipers literally to come.
Literally.
We try and we give some money to the high schools that come out, and so we want to make it so that we can be selective. We're not just getting the groups that are not the ones that don't get paid. So we're careful.
This is a big budget operation every year, and it gets more expensive, and the more complex, the more expensive it gets. But this is by no feat a cheap ordeal to put on.
Right. But people understand it, and another Geisinger is sponsoring the race this year. They've been involved with that before, and they're back again to do that. But it goes from $25 that we get in the mail from somebody because they believe that it's important, to the bigger sponsors, and that's how we operate. We're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid other than the bands and things.
How many years for you, Jamie?
This will be. Oh, now you got me stumped. 12.
12 years.
Yeah.
Well, I hate people who can't hold a job. That's just a terrible thing. But 12 years already, but 56 years back to early 1962, 63 in that era. And again, such a historic, as I mentioned before, just a contingent of events that led up to this. Of course, the plaza now, which is O'Connor Plaza, of course, the original site of St. Thomas College, which morphed into the University of Scranton. That entire block, again, steeped in rich heritage, not necessarily Irish, but just heritage. So it's nice to continue this on from the 1960s. we're heading toward the 2060s here in about 30 more years or so. So look at the time that has gone past, and this has still maintained its legs to hold on through countless generations already. It's amazing.
And you could say upheavals and things. And I think the important thing is the committee is really committed to the idea that ultimately we want to put on a parade that people are going to enjoy to watch. And we're not going to let politics, we're not going to let anything else kind of invade that and change that vision. And we've been really careful about that, and we think very, we take apart all the applications and make sure that if you were standing alongside watching the parade, you would actually enjoy what's passing by, and there's some semblance of some kind of unity, and you can hear the bands. It's not a cacophony.
You're right.
That's important stuff that we really take that to heart. We want somebody to walk away saying, not only, oh, that was a lot of fun, there was thousands of people, but that was a good parade. That was interesting. There were some things that I took away from it that I might not have had an experience with before, and that's
You're
what
right.
we do.
And that was my next point. It's not a cacophony of sound.
Right.
It's not, the bands are separated, so everybody has their unique, kind of like a sync in between that you cannot overlap, and it doesn't sound like an alley full of cats playing at the same time. So there's a lot of thought that goes into the choreography of something like this.
Yep, and you use the word choreography, and that's the best word to use, because that's exactly what we try to do. And we've over the years, because it's grown so big, we have 12,000 people usually in the parade itself, between the bands and the floats and everything. So we now have basically a division that's just sort of the Irish groups, the AOHs and the Irish cultural and the step dancers. We have an entire division that's labor, the unions, and how important that is for this area. And so we've as we grow, we kind of tinker with it, but at the same time, we have our traditions and we try and stick to them.
Especially labor unions.
Oh, yes.
As far as mining and railroading, this being, Steamtown right down the block. I mean, the mines own the railroads and the railroads own the mines. This is the biggest AFL-CIO next to probably New York City and Chicago, probably in the East and Central United States in this
my
area.
grandfather was AFL-CIO before he became a Scranton fireman. This is all part of our heritage, and we're trying to be true to it.
How does one get into the parade if they own a business? And do you ever turn anyone down?
No, well, no. And how you get in, you go to our website, stpatparade.com. There's an application process. Businesses we do charge. Nonprofits are free. There's a scale, how the different size of your business, how much you have to pay to get in, because it's good advertising for them.
It is. That's the best advertising.
That's
Where
what
can
we
you
figured.
reach the amount of people you reach?
That's our attitude. So no, we look at the applications, and thankfully we've never had to turn anyone away. But it is an application. So if something wasn't, we'd probably get rid of them. But
it's a good tie-in too with the Roman Catholic rite, the church here in Scranton as well. I think to start off with the Mass, I think again that goes way back, to the time when it was status quo.
Right.
Now with the separation, of church and everything else, it's good to see that some things do deviate from the norm.
Yeah.
I'm a good deviator from the norm. It's like, I don't follow the crowd. I take the road less traveled. And it's good to see that, that the tradition sometimes stands alone with what, some people who buck the system may want to go the other way on that. But I'm sure that there's a lot of folks involved as well that feel the same way of that.
Oh, right. And I think, it gets back to the idea of the immigrant experience and how important the church, no matter what church it was to that particular community. And the immigrants built a lot of these churches, and they're still around, and so are we. So
absolutely. Volunteers are always needed.
Correct.
And how can they get in touch now? You mentioned the site, and is there a Facebook page as well, Jamie?
We do have a Facebook page. Scranton St. Pat's Parade is our Facebook page. Both of those are good resources for information about the parade. If I didn't answer all your questions today, go to our frequently asked questions on the website, and that'll give you some idea. The one thing that we look for We usually get a group of kids to carry the banners in the parade. The kids love it.
That's a volunteer effort.
That's a volunteer effort, and they can contact the website if someone thinks they want to participate like that. The committee itself does most of the legwork the day of, setting up the divisions and being out on the street and making sure everything runs smoothly.
But you can never have enough volunteers, right?
I agree.
And you can also use those as far as crowd control. You can do a myriad of different events with someone who's really willing.
Yeah.
And I guess you get a good share of those every week because somebody wants to be, if you're not directly involved in the parade, you can be if you're a volunteer.
Sure.
So I'm sure that's contagious.
Yeah, and one of the groups that is very loyal is the Lackawanna College Police Academy cadets. We've had them several years, and we hand them over to the police, and the police send them, and they know where they need them. And again, it's crowd control. It's directing people. It's helping people find where they're supposed to be and when they're supposed to be, and that's important.
We talked before we went on the air, but again, Mark Volk and Lackawanna College is doing a sensational job of getting the word out. He's a master of publicity and promotion for the school, and again, good to have you tied up with someone like that.
We're lucky to have Mark in our community. There's not much more you can say about that.
Absolutely. So the times, give us again the time it starts, the Mass.
It starts at 10 a.m., the Mass. The race will start at 11 a.m. And the actual parade steps off at 11:45. The race is only 2 miles, so that gets cleared out pretty quick. But that's what we have.
And some of the big headliners this year.
Well, I'd like to point out that also this year, Colts, the busing, they have free busing every year. And we're trying to promote this because we think it's great for families to, if you don't want to have to park in town, if you can hop on the bus and get in. But it's also an alternative to driving after you've had a couple of beers. And we encourage people to have a good time, but we'd also like to see people taking advantage of something like this. A free bus ride back to your house is it's a pretty good thing to do to keep you off the streets. And so we're partnering with Colts and trying to promote their free busing on that day.
Gretchen has helped a lot.
Oh yeah, Gretchen Wintermantle at Colts.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And a really good thing, and of course they've been very expedient in extending the routes in different areas.
Correct.
I mean, I live right at the Lackawanna-Lucerne County line, which was never really served the Duryea area. They went as far as Old Forge. Now there's buses around to the different factories and industries around where I live. They've done a lot in the past 4 or 5 years as far as extending their routes and making their transportation system more accessible to the average people who could use it to come to a downtown area, whether you want to change and go to Wilkes-Barre and Old Forge, or we want to stay back in the Scranton area and the Mid-Valley area. They've done a lot as far as really expanding and growing their route, and good to see them expanding their presence in the parade as well, too, Jamie.
Yeah. And they've always been with us, and we're just trying to give it more of a promotion, and with their help, we're going to do that this year, so people are more aware of it. And we'll probably have the bus stops and the times will be accessible through our website. I know that they do it too, but we do that in connection with them, so people know exactly where to go and when things are going.
When you're looking for new acts, again, you have a plethora of things to choose from. Is there anything that you would like to get on your wish list that maybe you couldn't afford, or maybe is usually booked at that same time? Do you have like a top wish list on something?
Well,
like
we
that?
do talk about our, maybe the Notre Dame marching band or something
could you
fun
imagine
like
the
that.
Notre Dame in Scranton, Pennsylvania,
or Penn State, or one of those really big.
Oh, I think Notre Dame would have a bigger effect actually than Penn
Well,
State.
but
even,
the
to be
Irish,
honest. Absolutely. I mean,
but something like that would be great. But at the same time, we're so lucky the way we have this, and we do have a point where we have to say to some of the bands, especially the pipe bands, we'll get back to you next year. And it's worked out great because what we look for, and there's a specific kind of pipe band that you need for a parade, and that's the groups we get. They're not not necessarily the ones that are in the competitions and things. They're the ones that know how to march in a parade and understand what they're doing in a parade, and it's basically there to entertain the crowd, and we've been very lucky with that. And like I said, we rotate, and it gives them a year off. It gives us a year to have somebody different too.
I got to tell you, the downtown never looked better. And last week, our guest was from Pittston, and they always pay accolades to Scranton, as you well know. And just incredible job with the downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, businesses moving in. The marketplace is a good step up from. Let's face it, malls in America right now are a product of the late 1960s.
Yep.
Very tough sell. You know, and life is such a pendulum. We go from the 1960s where something like a mall, people used to just flock to the Viewmont Mall location in Dixon City to watch them build something where all the shops are under one roof. And then again, as the pendulum swings back, now it's cheaper and more effective to build your own building around the mall area where you have more parking, you don't have a mile-long building to walk through, and then again you get back into the marketplaces, which a lot of the malls are becoming, like the marketplaces seem to. Life is cyclical, and if you wait long enough, things that are out will be in, and unfortunately vice versa on that. But the downtown area looks absolutely great, and I think it's totally the best place for something, and this is what, one of the top 5 in the country?
We're second.
Second.
And based on our population, it's a per capita, we're second. And talking about downtown and what you can do, and one of the things that we encourage people, especially families, is the Cultural Center has a wonderful event that basically starts after the parade. You can still go up, but then they start getting bands in. Some of the pipe bands go right from the parade route in and play for the group in there. But when you walk around town, and I talked a little bit about the food trucks and the people selling things, that to me is all part of the parade, and that's the fun. Downtown is walkable, even with kids. It's accessible and it's safe, and more people should be taking advantage of it, and especially Parade Day. It's just a great time to be out and around.
You hit a grand slam, I think, this year with the veterans. This is the biggest veteran area possibly anywhere of a city of its size. And you know, as far as the television and radio market, we're number 69, so this is not a small town. This is a pretty good size, you know, way top 100 town. But I think that's a wonderful thing then to tie that in with the church this year. I think that's a home run on
well, we're
both
lucky
fronts.
Because we've got the 150th of the diocese and then the 125th anniversary of World War I. So we're trying to accommodate and celebrate both of those things throughout the parade.
Website and Facebook page once again, Jane?
stpatparade.com is our website, and the Facebook page is Scranton Parade. Scranton St. Patrick's Parade, I think.
We wish you good weather.
Thank you.
Good luck, Aaron Go Bra, and we'll see you at the parade.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and may the weather cooperate this year as well. I'm Rusty Fender, David DeCosmo, hopefully back next week. Mark McGlory, our technical guru, as always. Thank you, Mark. For all of us here at ECTV Live, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time on ECTV Live.